Emmanuel Macron is facing a backlash after threatening to cut off social media networks as a means of stopping the spread of violence during periods of unrest. Élysée officials and government ministers responded on Wednesday by insisting the president was not threatening a general blackout, but instead the occasional and temporary suspension of platforms. The president's comments came as ministers blamed young people using social media, such as Snapchat and TikTok, for organizing and encouraging rioting and violence after the shooting dead of a teenager during a police traffic stop in a Paris suburb last week. We need to think about how young people use social networks, in the family, at school, the interdictions there should be, and when things get out of hand we may have to regulate them or cut them off. Macron told a meeting of more than 250 mayors whose municipalities were hit by the violence on Tuesday. Above all, we shouldn't do this in the heat of the moment, and I'm pleased we didn't have to, but I think it's a real debate that we need to have in the cold light of day, Macron told the mayors in a video obtained by BFM television. Critics said considering such measures would put France alongside authoritarian countries such as China, Russia, Iran and North Korea. Some have France's largest cities have been a war zone since a 17-year-old driver was shot dead by a police officer during a traffic check in the northwestern Paris suburb of Nanterre on the morning of June 27th. The officer has been detained on suspicion of voluntary homicide amid an ongoing investigation into the incident, according to the local prosecutor's office. Nanterre prosecutor Pascal Prache said the officer did not meet the requirements to discharge his weapon and will remain in custody awaiting trial. France's Inspectorate General of the National Police, which investigates allegations of police misconduct, is also conducting a probe into the fatal shooting. Lawyers for the victim's family identified him as Nahel M., a French citizen of Algerian descent who lived in a working-class area of Nanterre. The lawyers told ABC News that they have filed complaints against the officer accused of pulling the trigger and another officer who was at the scene. Nahel was laid to rest in Nanterre on July 1st after a funeral service at a mosque that drew hundreds of attendees. Widespread riots erupted in the streets of France following Nahel's death, with at least 5 consecutive nights of violence. While tensions have remained highest in the Paris suburbs, almost every French region has been hit with unrest since the fatal shooting. Angry protesters have clashed with riot police, and more than 3,000 people have been arrested nationwide over the past week, according to the French Ministry of the Interior. On several nights, rioters erected barricades, threw fireworks at police, ransacked businesses and set fires to thousands of cars and buildings. Police stations, schools and town halls were among the buildings targeted, the Interior Ministry said. As a result, more than 40,000 law enforcement officers have been deployed across France at night to quell violence, using tear gas, water cannons, and non-lethal dispersion grenades against rioters. Hundreds of those officers have been injured, according to the Interior Ministry. It was unclear how many protesters were injured.